everybody, Luther here from Luther's Woodworking. This week's video is going to be building this toy tractor right here. It's a toymakingplans.com pattern. When you go to their website, and I'll have a link below to their website, but when you go to their website, that tractor actually comes with a complete set of stuff here. We got a trailer. You got animals and some people, and you got this fence. So when you order the plan, you're not only going to get the tractor, you're going to get all this too. But today we're just going to build this tractor. It's a pretty easy build, not too many parts. The tractor itself has got a couple different thicknesses of wood. The actual centerpiece right here, that's 3/4 inch. The two outside pieces that get glued on, them are 1/2 inch. And then you got a little fancy piece on the front here. This is 1/8 inch. And then you have your fenders, which are made out of 3/4 inch wood. And then you got your roof here, which is made out of 3/8. None of that thicknesses are very important. You can use whatever you want to build this tractor. But then also it's got the wheels, the front wheels here for the tractor. And I'll put all the information for this wheel. We get all our wheel parts from craftparts.com, and I'll put all the information for this wheel up on the screen. And then also we got the back wheel here. Now these are larger wheels. These I have glued together because the tractor, you can see, has got dual wheels in the back right here. So they're glued together. You can buy them already glued together, but I had a bunch of single wheels that I glued together myself. But I'll put all the information for this wheel up on the screen so you can get that. And then also with these, putting the wheels on, we're going to be using these axle pegs, these longer axle pegs. And I'll put all the information for this axle peg up on the screen. The plan itself, and then it also, it's got this steering wheel that I'm going to be putting on. Now, the Craft Parts has all kinds of different steering wheels and stuff you can get. I'm using this one because I had these kind laying around in my shop. You could just use a wheel if you want to. So all these parts are on craftparts.com. And then also, what was I going to say here? Let me see, we covered the wheels. We're going to do this toy a little different than what the plan calls for as far as building it. If you look, the actual build, the axle goes through completely through the tractor. They use a dowel and it goes through the tractor. We're going to do it a little different. We're going to use these axle pegs, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that throughout the process of this build. And then also the front axle block right here where the front wheels get attached to. That's a little different. I'm going to do that a little different too than what the plans call for. Some toys I use axle pegs all the way through, and some I don't. This particular toy, I'm just going to be using these axle pegs. I think they work nicer for this particular toy, but you could build this plan exactly the way they call for building it too. But we're going to go through each step here and get started. So what I did was, when I got my set of plans, I made hard copies of all my parts for the tractor. I usually do this for a lot of my simple toys. That way I don't have to cut out the pattern, tape my wood, and put the pattern on the wood, do all that. I can just take this pattern right here, lay it on the wood, and trace it on the wood that I need to trace it on. And also, too, you can write all your information on this pattern, so you got all the information right there. So when I want to build more of these tractors, I can just grab these parts and lay them on here and trace them. So I have, right now, I have all the parts traced on the different thicknesses of wood that we have here. And we're going to start out with, well, I want to talk a little bit about this main body, which is made out of 3/4 inch pine. I got it traced on here, okay? But before you cut this out, what you have to do is drill all your holes for your axles. I have them all marked on my pattern right here. any hole that you can drill before you cut the parts out, because it's a lot easier hanging onto your block of wood and drilling the holes. And also, you'll see on this pattern right here, I have this part of the pattern glued on right here. And it shows actually these little notches that get cut into the grill. And if you look on this tractor right here, you'll see there's little notches in this grill right here. You want to cut them in with your scroll saw. So what I did was I just took a part of my pattern and glued it on here. So I got the pattern right here. I can cut these notches in right here. And then also on this tractor, you'll see there's a hole drilled right here for the hitch to hook up a trailer. That's going to have to be drilled before you actually cut this out. And what I did for that was, here's the pattern on the board. Before we cut this out, we're going to drill this hole for the axle. And then we're going to turn the board over. You can see right here, this is where that hole has got to go for the hitch. Turn the board over. I brought my line to the bottom of the piece of wood, and I center punched right there in the center of that board. We're going to actually drill down past the area of where we're going to cut. I'll set my drill press to the depth past that, so that hole is drilled. So that way when we cut this pattern out, you'll have a nice clean hole in there, because you don't want to try to drill this hole after you cut this out. It'd be kind of hard, and you might damage your toy. And then here's the little notch right here that you got to cut out for your front axle block. Now when you cut this out, you want to be real careful, because there's a 3/4 inch piece of wood that has to fit in that notch. And you want that to fit in there as nice as possible. So if you happen to cut it out a little small, you can always make it bigger, but you don't want to cut it out too big, because it might not look as nice. So you want to be careful cutting this little notch out right here. Other than that, I think we're all ready to head over to the drill press and drill these holes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill all these holes for the axle and for the hitch part, and then I'm going to meet you over at the scroll saw, and we'll start cutting out all these parts. So we'll meet you at the scroll saw. All right, here at the scroll saw now, I got all my holes drilled for my axles and all these parts. What I didn't mention was that actually I drilled them 21/64 holes, because these are the axle pins that I'm going to be using. And I drilled them just a little bit bigger, one size bigger than the actual tenon on this axle peg. That way I got room for glue, the glue in the hole. So I got all them drilled. And then also, you'll see in the back, here's the tractor, and here's the axle peg. In the back here, underneath, I drilled a 3/8 hole for that hitch. And I figured a 3/8 hole is big enough for all the trailers that I pull, so everything will fit in that hole. So that's a 3/8 hole, and the axle holes are 21/64. So all of them are drilled. We're going to start cutting this out. I'm just going to cut this board here in half to make it a little smaller to hold on to. And I am using a number 5 reverse tooth blade here. It should be good enough for pretty much all these parts. so we have this cut out. Now, remember I said I glued this piece on right here. It's got the little designs here for the front grill. We're just going to I'm going to cut in both sides to make a nice straight cut on both sides here, and then I'll just cut that little center out. I'm actually cutting down one side and then pulling back out and cutting down the other side and just turning and cutting that center piece out. See, that really makes a really nice looking grill right here. So next we're going to cut this here notch for the front axle block to fit in. You want to be real careful cutting this because you don't want to cut it too big. Okay, so here's my front axle block that's going to go in there. We just want to make sure that fits in there. And if it doesn't, now it's kind of tight, so we're going to have to clean that up just a little bit. And I can show you how we can do that. You could probably go in here with the saw and clean up a little bit of it. Want that to fit in there, but I'll show you how we're gonna loosen that up a little bit. It's a little snug, but I'll show you how we can loosen that up. So we're done cutting this piece right here. we got that one cut out. And now we will cut out the roof. And we have the fenders here. All right, now we have the sides of the cab right here. broke a blade, so we'll change that and be right back. All right, new blade, here we go. Okay, fenders, all we got is this little fancy part that goes on the front of the tractor here. I got these double stacked, so I can do 2 at a time. Okay, so we have 2 of these little pieces that go in the front of the tractor. So I think we have pretty much everything cut out. Got these 2 little pieces. Got these parts for the tractor. We got the fenders. We have the cab windows. And we have the roof right here. And we have the main body of the tractor. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to sand all these parts up, get them looking good, and then we'll be back at the workbench. All right, guys, we are back here. I got everything all sanded up nice, all the parts laid out here. We got a couple things we got to do before we can start gluing this together. And the first thing is we got to put this steering wheel in this tractor right here. Now, the steering wheel I got is right here. Now, this one I got from craftparts.com. They got several different types of steering wheels there. It takes a little 3/16 dowel, goes on the end of the steering wheel there. So what we need to do is drill a 3/16 hole right where the steering wheel would go. And what I did was just punched a little center hole right here. I'm going to take a 3/16 drill bit, my hand drill, because you're not going to be able to do this on your drill press. So I just got a hand drill here with a 3/16 bit. I'm going to try to drill this hole. It doesn't have to be real deep. You just want to get a hole to put that steering wheel on. So it's really not that deep, and basically you're just going to stick your steering wheel in there. Basically like that there. So that will get glued in. And probably we're going to want to do that right away. So I'm just going to stick some glue. Just a tad, a little bit of glue in the steering wheel right here. You don't need a lot for this. And then, actually got a lot on there, huh? All right, so we stick that in there, and then we're just gonna put a little glue here. And pop that steering wheel in there. So that's in there. That'll dry really nice. One other thing we got to do is we got to work on the front axle block, which holds the front wheels of this tractor. Now, in the plans, because I said I do a few things different, in the plans for this front axle block, they actually show it being made with 3 separate pieces. You got these 2 pieces right here, and you got this top piece right here. I'll show you a better picture of it right here. In the plans they show, you got to make this piece, and this piece, and that goes together to create this piece. And that's for when they use a dowel to go through, but we're not using the dowel to go through for the axle. We're using axle pegs. So we don't have to cut none of these pieces here. All I did was just took a block, and this is the axle block right here. This is actually 3/4 inch thick, 1 inch wide, and 2 5/8 inches long. And that actually fits really nice right up inside your piece here for your axle. So your wheels will go on. And that's just one block. You don't have to cut a whole bunch of pieces to make this axle block. What we have to do is drill some holes on each end of this block. And I measured for my center, and I did a center punch on each end. We got to drill some, what size is it? 21/64 holes on each end of this axle block so we can mount these wheels in like this here. And we're going to drill only so far because you don't have to have too much of an axle going in there to glue it. So we're going to head over to the drill press. I'll show you how I do this because there's a couple different ways you could do this, but you don't want to hold this like this on your drill press. So let's head over to the drill press. I'll show you me drilling this. Okay, so like I said, there's a couple different ways you can do this as far as drilling the holes on the end of this axle block. You don't want to hold it with your hands. That I wouldn't recommend holding it with your hands. I have actually a little mini vise here. It's actually a pen vise, and I can stick the block in here like this here, and I can tighten up the vise right here, and I can go like this and drill it. If you don't have one of these vices, you can actually just use a clamp and go like this here with a clamp and hold it. But you don't want to hold it with your hands to do this drill. You could actually put your fence on for your drill press. If I was doing a whole bunch of these, maybe I'd put my fence on, and I could put my block up against the fence and clamp it. Because a lot of times I make a bunch of these tractors at once. But we have this little vise here. I'm going to use that. We just stick it in there like this here. And normally I would say you have to adjust your depth on your drill press to only go down so far. What I'm going to do is just drill down a little ways, and I'm going to keep on trying this until it goes down far enough for the wheel so this pin doesn't stick up like this here. So I'm just going to do it a couple times. But you don't want it to be like that. You want it deep enough where your axle peg will go down. A little bit more yet. So that should be good right there. And the wheel will spin really nice. Then all we got to do is just take that block out and stick it in the other way and do the same thing. And that should be good right there. Let me. So we got the axle block all drilled. Like I said, if you don't have one of these vices, you can use a clamp or anything, but I would not recommend holding it like this and drilling that hole. So let's head back over to the workbench, and I think we're almost ready to start gluing this together. All right, so we got the axle block, and I put both tires on it like this here, and everything works really nice. So that'll get glued underneath the main part on the tractor. The fenders are going to go on last, so we won't have to deal with them right now. The roof is actually going to go on last, so we won't have to deal with that. But remember I said I had these all sanded. Now, these side pieces that go on the side of the cab, right here, what I did, after you cut them out on the scroll saw, because you realize you got to cut around this whole thing to cut it out, you may not get this top part nice and straight when you cut it on the scroll saw. I mean, you do the best you can to come around and cut it straight. But what I do, after I cut it out and sand it, I take a little little pin right here. There's a little pin right here. And I'll put the two together right here. I'll stick them two together and I'll line them up. And what I did was went on my disc sander, because this is not 90 degrees right here. There's a little bit of a downward slope on that. If you look right here, it's not 90 degrees. There's a little bit of a downward slope on that piece. So what I did was put a pin in there, and I held it. You could put some tape around it or whatever. And I went on my disc sander, and I put this up against my miter gauge, and I just touched this against the disc. It's nice, a flat edge. You want a nice flat edge on this, because you want the best gluing. When you go to glue your roof on, you want the best gluing surface you can get. You want all the gluing surface you can get. So all I did was just make that totally flat. Just touched it up to make that flat. But you want to put a pin in here, because the height of these here need to be exactly the same in reference to this hole. So I just put a pin in here to hold them together, kind of hold it like that, put it on my sander, and just kind of touch this up against there and make that nice and flat. So we got that all done. I think we're ready to start putting this together. Here's the centerpiece right here. Now remember, we don't use a dowel for the axle. We use an axle pegs. I have this dowel I use for alignment, to put everything together. Because we know these two pieces here, they go on the outside like this here. They get glued on the outside. So I always dry fit everything first. I'm just going to put that dowel through there. And then I'm going to come over here and put that on there. So now I have these pieces. And I know they're going to get glued right there. And then, once I got it all set like this here, we can take it off and actually glue them pieces on there. So what we're going to do is just pull these pieces back off. And we know that all this area is touching this here tractor, so we can put glue on all this area. So we're just going to stick some glue on here. Doesn't have to be a whole lot, but because you don't want too much glue squeezing out. Because we're just using this dowel right here as a guide to put these in here. And we do the same thing over on this piece right here. We just slip that on that dowel. Now we know, and I use a hard surface right here to work on. Now we know that these two pieces are exactly in the same place on both sides. If I pick it up, it's nice and flat down here. If you look in the front, they're exactly the same distance from the front. Everything is sitting in there really nice. Because this dowel here is going to get pulled out later. So now we have them pieces in there. And we're going to clamp all this. But now we got our windows and our doors. We're going to do the same thing. I know I'm going to put this on here, and you can kind of see where you need to put glue. We need to put glue across the bottom, and a little bit up here, and a little bit up here. So we need to put glue right here, and then a little bit on the inside. Let me see. You want to make sure you know where you're putting the glue. Across the bottom here, and a little bit on the outside, and a little bit on the outside up here. You don't need a whole lot. And we're just going to slide that window on here. Now we know that is exactly where that's going to be. Now the other window, we're going to do the same thing. A little bit on the outside, not much. And we're going to slide that panel on. Now, before I slide it all the way up against there, what is very important with these tractors, especially these two parts right here, you want to make sure when you put it together that these are lined up square this way and lined up square in the front. I don't know if you can see it, but lined up square in the front and then square across the top. So you might have to move things here and there, but we're going to put this up here and we're just going to check. You want to make sure that these are square across the front and back, because that, for one thing, is going to make your tractor look really nice. This is all square. And another thing, your wheels get put on next after this, and you want your wheels to be level across, straight across from each other. So you want to make sure that this is all straight across this way, because your roof is going to sit on there, and you don't want your roof crooked, not like that. So that's the most important part of making this tractor, is getting these pieces so they'll level across. And it looks like it's actually not bad right there. If you have to make any adjustments, though, this glue sets up kind of fast. So make the adjustments right away. Get everything pushed down. And if I was to pick this up, let me just show you. Oh, that moved. But anyway, it should be nice and flat on the bottom too. So just make sure everything is all level. And then what we're going to do is put a clamp. You want a clamp. I use these bar clamps. They're pretty handy to use for this here project. I use these bar clamps. We're going to put one right here. just to hold that front on. Now, as you do this, you want to make sure still that this stays straight across. Because once this glue is dry, you're not going to move these parts. I'll guarantee you. So once that's on there like that, we're going to put another clamp right across here. And then always double check to make sure things are square, because that's going to make a big difference on how your tractor looks, and it's going to make a big difference on your wheel lineup. Once you got that, I think what we're going to do is we might put one more clamp across the front right here. Just kind of snug that up across the front. I think we're pretty good. We're going to let that dry, because remember I was telling you about this roof? You want that nice and flat. When you go to put your roof on, you want that a lot of good gluing surface. And when you cut that out with the scroll saw, you may not get that exactly nice and flat. So that roof would be the last thing we put on. But I think we pretty much got it all clamped up good. Once that's all dry, we can take it apart. And actually, we'll put in our axle block and work on a few other things. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll be back. All right, guys, we are back. I took the clamps off. Everything looks pretty good on it. Sits nice and flat, and everything's lined up. One thing you want to make sure when you glue this up, whether you do it the way I've been doing it with the dowel, or if you do it with an axle like the plan calls for with the dowel, you want to make sure that when you put these side pieces on for the cab, you want to make sure that they're even across here, even across the top, and even across the front. You want them to look nice and even, because that's going to help when you go to put this roof on. So it actually looks pretty nice. Everything's nice and even, and it's flat across the bottom here. So that's what you want to make sure. When it's all said and done, you want this stuff even right here. And you want to, next thing we want to do here is we want to put this front axle block in. We got it all made. Basically all you got to do is glue it in the front. Now remember I said you had to, when we cut this out, you had to make sure this block fit in here really nice. And you can see it does. There's a couple ways you can get that. If you cut it and get lucky, you might be able to get it to fit really nice. Otherwise, you can try to trim it with your scroll saw. I got sandpaper mounted to a paint stick right here. Sometimes you can go in there and just kind of clean it up just a little bit to get this to fit in here really nice. Or you can just take your axle block on the belt sander and just kind of sand it a little bit on the front and back, and it should fit in there really nice. But the better you get this to fit in there, the nicer your toy is going to look. So all we're going to do now is just glue that in there. And when you go to glue it in there, you just want to center it the best you can. We're just going to stick some glue here. You don't need a whole lot, but we're just going to stick some glue right there. And we're just going to set this block in here. And you want to try to get it, it should line right up with the edge of your tractor right here. You just want to kind of get it centered in there. I probably got too much glue in there. We'll see once here. Take some of that glue out of there. You don't want to have too much glue squeezing out. set that in there like that. And just kind of get it centered the best you can, because your front wheels are just going to go on like this. When we go to glue the wheels in, they're just going to go on like that there. So that looks pretty good. Just kind of look down the back, you can see. So that's good. We're going to let that dry for a little bit. You just set it down there like this. And it should be good. We'll let that dry a little bit, that front axle. Then we'll come back. Oh, actually, we can do one more thing here. We're actually going to put on, I think we're going to put the roof on. Let me see once. I think we can, let's stick the roof on. I'm trying to think, because we want to put the wheels and the fenders on, and you want to be able to lay this somewhat flat. So I think we're going to wait for the roof and put that on at another time. Probably the last thing you're going to do is put that roof on. So we'll let that front axle block dry up a little bit, and then we'll work on the... Actually, let me see once here. We might be able to put these fenders on, because that axle block's really not going to go nowhere. So let's put these fenders on. Now I'm going to explain something to you. We're not going to glue these wheels in yet. We're going to just set them there, because that's going to determine where these fenders go, where you glue these fenders on. And let me just tell you something a little bit about these fenders. There's a piece that I did not cut out that calls for in the plan. And let me just show you. It's part number 7. It's a 1/4 inch piece. And it's actually this piece right here. It's a small little piece like this here. And it's supposed to be 1/4 inch thick. And basically what it does is it gets glued on your fender right here in this rounded part. And what it does is, if you use it, it'll bring your fender out. I don't know if you can see it, but if you use that piece, it'll bring your fender out about like this, away from this here side of the cab. Now, you could use that if you want, but the reason why I don't use it is because it just creates a weak point in your fender, because this could break. So I don't use it. I just glue my fender here and right up against the wall of the cab. And you can see right here on this tractor right here, I didn't put no spacer. I did not put a spacer in here. My fender is glued to here, and it's glued on the wall of this cab. And I think it's just a lot sturdier having that glued in them two places rather than having a space in here. So basically you can just put your wheel, set your wheel in there, and just determine where you're going to put your fenders. Just come up with a place where you're going to put your fenders, and then just stick some glue we put a little glue right here. And then we're going to actually put a little glue right so far down, right there. And we're just going to set that fender on there. Make sure we got enough glue. Try to clean up any glue that might squeeze out, but basically it's going to look like this. And we'll just let this axle block dry and let that one fender dry, and then when we come back, we can tip it over, do the wheel on the other side of the fender. I just like the idea of having that fender glued to two places rather than have it just glued to one. So we'll let that dry up and then we'll come back. Alright guys, we are back. I went ahead, finished the tractor, got everything all glued on it. Let me just explain a few things to you as far as what I did. As far as the fenders, you see me put one fender on. I just flipped it over and put the wheel down on there and used the wheel as a guide, and then I glued the fender on. Once they were dried a little bit, then I put the wheels in, laid it on the side, just took a little glue, put it down inside the hole for the wheels, and stuck the axle pin in there with the wheel, made sure the wheel turned, and I did that to all four of these. You don't need a lot of glue inside there, but enough to hold the axle pig in. And then every once in a while, you want to make sure you move your tractor just to make sure these wheels don't stick. They should work really well. And then I glued the roof on, put a little glue on the top of the sides there and set the roof on there. And then these small pieces on the side right here, don't want to forget them, and put them on. Now, I've done a lot of these tractors and I've painted a lot of them, John Deere, Ford, blue, red, white, different colors. If you're going to paint these tractors, you want to leave the wheels off. Let's say you want to paint it like a John Deere, you would leave the wheels off and you'd leave these here pieces off the sides, and then you'd paint the whole thing green, and then you'd paint these yellow. That's how I did it, painted these yellow, put them and glued them on there. The way you paint it, that's up to you. I've done John Deere, Ford, all different types of tractors, colors. And if I can, I'll post some pictures on my video to show you some of the ones I got. I don't know if I can, but I'll try to. But yeah, it's done. It looks good. What's important is make sure everything is lined up. Like I said, make sure this cab is all lined up good, front and back and everything. When you go to glue everything together, and you can see here the wheels, they're all in line, really nice. So it makes a nice toy. This is one of my favorite tractors to build. I've built a ton of these tractors, and they really look really neat if you paint them, and you paint the wheels black, and we actually paint the rims yellow. If we're doing John Deere, we do the yellow rims with black tires. It really sets it off really nice. So it's a fun build, and I hope you liked the video. Give me a thumbs up if you do, and hit that subscribe button, because I do have a lot more videos coming out as far as building toys. I know this video took a little while to do, about an hour. Had some issues with some of the stuff, but other than that, it went pretty good. It doesn't take an hour to make one of these tractors. I usually do about 5-6 of these at a time, and I can get them all done in one day. So it doesn't take an hour to do one tractor. I talked a lot and all that stuff. As far as the fenders go, you can see the fenders are glued on the bottom, and they're glued up here on the side of the cab. You can do it the way they did it, and use that spacer if you want. You could actually build this whole tractor exactly the way they did it if you want. You don't have to do it the way I did it. You can come up with your own method. As far as gluing it together and getting things lined up, if you come up with something better, that's fine. The way I've been doing it, it's been working out good, and you can see it looks really nice. So it's not hard to do. just come up with your own way of doing it. I just thought I'd show you the way I do it. And like I said, I've built a lot of these. So with that all said, I think, oh, and then another thing too, make yourself a lot these templates. If you're going to build a lot of these templates help. You can just lay it on the wood and trace it. You don't have to cut all your paper out. You know, I make samples of everything. Here's a sample of an axle block, so I know exactly what I need to do my front axle, everything. So, and then I keep all my patterns in a Ziploc bag. So all I gotta do, if I want to make this tractor, this has got the fence and all the animals and everything else in it. This has got the whole set in here. If I want to make another tractor, all I gotta do is grab this bag, take the parts out, and trace, and I can make as many as I want. So I don't even need to use the actual plan anymore, because I built so many. I know how to do it, and I got all the pattern in the bag, so it makes it easy for me. So with that said, I think this is about the end of the video. We'll see you on the next one.